Deadlights, a Macroverse, and an insatiable taste for fear, Pennywise is so much more than a dancing clown. Here's the chilling explanation of all of Pennywise's powers in Stephen King's It. Pennywise's presence can be felt throughout Derry, and the terrifying monster has a knack for appearing in the strangest places. Though the novel's opening chapter is known for the awful death of Georgie Dembro, this horrific end is preceded by a much quieter but equally ominous scare. Georgie goes into his basement for paraffin wax, needed to waterproof his paper sailboat. While making his way through the dark cellar, he notices a pair of glowing eyes watching him patiently, as if preparing to strike. Pennywise frequently lurks in shadows and dark corners, making his presence known and then quickly withdrawing again. Derry is It's sandbox. You get the feeling that It could be literally anywhere at any time. When Mike makes a delivery to Derry Quality Meats, he first sees what appears to be a clown dangling from a meat hook, obscuring what is likely just an animal carcass. This deceptive practice has several benefits for a monster who feasts on fear. It causes his victims to doubt their perception, making them more vulnerable to his direct attacks. These subtle appearances also create a general feeling of unease, leaving the residents of Derry constantly on edge. It's a tactic Pennywise has been employing for decades. As Ben's research shows, Pennywise has been hiding in plain sight, frequently lurking within images from Derry's past and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One of Pennywise's more disturbing characteristics is his ability to transcend the laws of physics. He can bend and contort his body at will, fitting into tiny spaces or expanding to dominate a room. A spectacular demonstration of this power occurs in the decrepit house on Neibolt Street, when the clown slowly unfolds himself from the inside of a refrigerator. The effect was accomplished almost entirely through CGI and provides a nightmarish glimpse into the depths of his powers. This ghastly ability is also the clincher for one of the most heartbreaking deaths in the series. After losing his arm, Georgie attempts to crawl away to safety, but can't outcrawl Pennywise's supernatural reach. Director Andy Muschietti has said this is one of the most difficult scenes to shoot, but it perfectly sets the deadly tone and presents a monster from which there is no escape. While the ability to freakishly contort his clown-shaped body leads to some unforgettable moments, Pennywise's real signature power is the ability to shift into any shape the mind can imagine. It is actually an entity from another world with a true form that is too complex for the human mind, a massive spider-like beast being the closest option. His default persona during the Losers Club era is the iconic clown, but he originally took the form of an eagle to menace the people indigenous to the land on which Derry now sits. Pennywise appears as many things throughout the story, including a werewolf, a leper, a mummy, an old woman, and a giant statue of Paul Bunyan. During the conclusion of It, Pennywise rapidly changes into a succession of faces, all designed to intimidate the person directly attacking him at any given moment. In the conclusion of It Chapter 2, he sprouts long tentacles and spider-like legs, a nod to the novel's original conclusion. One of the most frightening forms appears in It, and even managed to scare Stephen King. Preparing for his bar mitzvah, Stan finds himself alone in his father's office with a creepy painting of an elongated woman holding a flute. The portrait falls face down on the floor, and Stan rehangs it, only to find an empty frame, and the woman playing her haunting melody in the shadows behind him. Inspired by an incident from his childhood, director Andy Muschietti incorporated this nightmare into the story, exponentially upping the fear factor. Sharp teeth isn't exactly a power, but you can't ignore Pennywise's most terrifying physical feature. Hidden within his sinister smile are rows upon rows of needle-like teeth. In his introductory scene in It, the clown grabs Georgie's arm and then distends his jaw to reveal several rows of dagger-sharp teeth. These fangs can also be seen under the kissing bridge in It Chapter 2, as Pennywise claims a dying Adrian Mellon. The distended mouth and glittering rows of pointed teeth seen in the films are a product of CGI, but the smile that surrounds them is frighteningly real. Actor Bill Skarsgård spent considerable time creating the sinister grin, combining imagery from hyenas and grizzly bears with an ability to point his lower lip honed as a child. Skarsgård remembers using this face to scare his younger brother, an ironic training ground for the predator he would eventually portray. The response of most children when confronted with a monster is to find safety with an adult. That's not a luxury the children of Derry can afford. The adult citizens are rarely of help and are often dangerous themselves. Ben's research confirms an extraordinarily high rate of disappearances within the town, but these crimes rarely faze the adult citizens. This is likely due to its lair, located in the bowels of the town. His evil pervades the thoughts and actions of its older residents. This ambivalence is present in the opening scene of It, as an old woman turns away from Georgie talking to a sewer drain. She then returns to find the boy missing and the street filled with blood. She apparently does not report the incident, and Georgie is considered missing. Later, when local bully Henry Bowers attempts to carve his name into Ben's stomach, a car passes by, a red balloon in the back seat signaling their indifference. Perhaps the most egregious example of these awful adults, though, is Beverly's father, Alvin Marsh. He cruelly blames her for her mother's death and constantly makes inappropriate comments that suggest a lot more than the film show. One of Pennywise's most visually arresting talents is his ability to manipulate red balloons. Often appearing as a harbinger of his presence, they are seemingly unbound by the laws of physics and can float against the wind, grow to massive size, and appear out of thin air. These balloons are usually only visible to his intended victims, imperceptible to those around them. Ben notices a balloon dragged horizontally across the library as if with invisible hands minutes before he is attacked by Pennywise. These balloons often serve a practical purpose to the malevolent clown. Henry Bowers finds the knife he uses to kill his father in his mailbox marked with a signature orb. In one memorable scene from It Chapter 2, Pennywise uses a cluster of balloons to glide through the air toward Richie. Pennywise has other tricks up his ruffled sleeves too, like supernatural messages. After capturing Beverly in It, Pennywise leaves a message written in blood on her bathroom wall: "You die if you try." The cheeky phrase is intended both to intimidate Bill and warn him away from trying to rescue his friend. Or perhaps his intention is to challenge the group's de facto leader and cause him to bring the rest of the Losers Club to fight the clown on his home turf. Most of these messages occur in the sequel film It Chapter 2. Having been defeated by the 7 friends in a previous cycle, Pennywise has been nursing a grudge and is anxious for another chance to destroy them. The second film opens with an ominous command. "Come home" is written in blood on the side of a bridge after the tragic death of Adrian Mellon. But perhaps the most memorable message occurs during dessert at the Losers' reunion dinner. Nightmarish fortune cookies each contain slips of paper, each with a single word. Combined, they read, "Guess Stan couldn't cut it," a heartbreaking statement referring to the decision their childhood friend made to avoid coming back to face the devious monster. Not content to only appear in person or leave grim messages, Pennywise has an unsettling habit of haunting books, flyers, and other forms of physical media. Ben's library book about the history of Derry contains a series of pages with increasingly enhanced images that slowly reveal the severed head of a little boy killed in an explosion. Even more ominous is the children's TV show many kids and adults of Derry can be seen watching in It. Delivering unsettling messages, the female host informs her viewers about the joys of playing in the sewers, and later directly commands Henry Bowers to kill his father. These examples are often designed to intimidate its potential victims, like the missing poster Richie finds featuring a picture of himself apparently taken that same day. This power manifests in one memorable scene from It. After the kids look at slides of Derry to plan their attack, the projector malfunctions and rapidly displays a series of Bill's family photos. Seeming to freeze on one image, the hair covering Mrs. Dembro's face slowly blows back to reveal Pennywise, and audiences everywhere get the jump scare of their lives. Hoping to capture authentic reactions, this scene marked the first time the child actors as a group actually saw Bill Skarsgård in his full Pennywise costume, adding oomph to what is already the most effective sequence of the movie. One of Pennywise's most devastating powers is a variation of his shapeshifting. He is able to conjure the dead, adding emotional turmoil to an already frightening scene. Once a person dies in Derry, they seemingly become fair game for the flamboyant monster. Patrick Hockstetter finds this out firsthand while chasing Ben through the sewers in the first film. Hearing whispers, he lights his makeshift flamethrower to reveal the decomposing corpses of the Derry kids who've recently gone missing. They chase him into a dead end of the sewer where he is devoured by Pennywise. Hockstetter's own reanimated corpse is featured in It Chapter 2. Beverly also hears the voices of these children in the drain of her bathroom sink before the tendrils of hair emerge and try to drag her in. This power takes a devastating turn as Pennywise also conjures the image of Georgie to further torture Bill. He appears as the ill-fated little brother several times throughout the story, intentionally amplifying Bill's guilt and grief. In another emotional tactic, Pennywise takes the form of Stan's severed head. Emerging through the floorboards of the sinister house on Neibolt Street, He first blames Bill for his death, then sprouts spider legs from his face before skittering toward the group. One might think that simply avoiding Pennywise would be enough to stay safe in Derry, but the clown has a number of tricks up his sleeves, some involving the town's citizens. It is capable of manipulating the people of Derry, often causing them to do his bidding. The most notable example of this manipulation is Henry Bowers, who serves as a kind of henchman for it, constantly attacking the losers. Henry is more than an average bully. Guided by Pennywise, he kills his abusive father. As an adult, he breaks out of a mental health facility determined to finally kill the Losers Club. Pennywise essentially orchestrates his escape, sending the corpse of Patrick Hockstetter to wait outside with a getaway car. Pennywise's evil has an indirect effect on the citizens of Derry as a whole, a cursed town full of angry and violent people, as seen with the death of Adrian Mellon. It Chapter 2 opens with a brutal hate crime, as a group of teens hurl homophobic slurs at Adrian and his boyfriend before beating him and then throwing him off a bridge into the water below. Though never explicitly stated, it is implied that unspeakable violence like this happens as a result of the underlying hatred in Derry itself. Red balloons and lurking monsters are not the only devious creatures Pennywise is capable of conjuring. His presence is occasionally signaled by a thick black goo with mysterious properties. The slimy substance first appears in the house on Neibolt Street. An image of Eddie's decapitated head bursts through a dirty mattress and then spews the disgusting liquid all over the floor. The goo is also a presence in one of the most disgusting scenes in It Chapter 2. After a reunion dinner at Jade of the Orient, in which the old friends reconnect and bond over happy memories, they're treated to a nightmarish dessert. The dark slime slowly begins to spread across the table as their fortune cookies burst open with tiny monsters. The goo isn't always a part of Pennywise's manifestations, but when it is, it seems to act as sort of a primordial ooze from which other horrors are born. Though its evil pervades the town of Derry, creating a distinctly unpleasant environment, the residents occasionally catch a bit of a break. Pennywise functions on a cycle spanning roughly 27 years that has been presumably repeating itself for centuries. Each new cycle is born with a shocking act of violence. The death of Georgie Dembro begins the 1989 cycle, and Adrian Mellon's murder is the instigator of the modern cycle. Once in full swing, Derry is beset with a series of deaths and disappearances culminating in a large-scale tragedy. Finally full, it retreats into his lair for another long slumber. Though Andy Muschietti's films cast Ben as the original Derry historian, Stephen King's original novel gives Mike the task of chronicling town events. Not sure they've definitely killed the nightmarish clown, he is wary of another cycle beginning and dreads having to call in the promise they made as children to come back and finish the job. King's novel contains an extensive exploration of previous cycles in sections called interludes. In preparation for a new round, Mike has collected stories about mass murders, vanishing settlements, a racially motivated fire, and a deadly explosion during a children's Easter egg hunt, all occurring within the Derry town limits. The HBO prequel series Welcome to Derry will reportedly be set in the 1960s, placing it roughly one cycle ahead of the one featured in It, teasing more of the town's dark history. Pennywise's most insidious faculty is also the most difficult to explain. Though he often appears as a clown, his true form is a source of eldritch power known as the Deadlights. Depicted as three glowing lights in director Andy Muschietti's film It, the Deadlights are a nebulous source of energy connected to a larger dimension called the Macroverse. Also referred to as Todash in Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, this is a sort of liminal space between worlds, filled with lurking monsters waiting for their chance to break free, that connects many of Stephen King's works. Pennywise uses the Deadlights as a sort of hypnosis, meant to incapacitate his prey for later consumption. Unhinging his jaws, he opens his face to reveal a long, tooth-lined tunnel surrounding the glowing orange lights. Beverly is the first of the losers to become trapped in the Deadlights, which hypnotize her and put her into a state of suspended animation. Richie is also caught in the Deadlights in the conclusion of It Chapter 2. The losers combat the Deadlights with the ritual of Chud, a metaphysical way of matching wits with a centuries-old demon. While Muschietti's ritual differs dramatically from King's, both involve overpowering the monster by forming a cosmic connection both with it and with each other. Pennywise's most upsetting power lies in his ability to manipulate the emotions of his intended victims. This innate ability to identify someone's deepest fears also allows him to access and exploit their internal feelings of guilt, shame, and loss. Mike first encounters it as badly burning hands, reminiscent of the house fire that killed his parents when he was a child. Bill is manipulated by the ghost of Georgie several times throughout the series. In It Chapter 2, Pennywise tries to disarm Bill by accusing him of causing Georgie's death by lying about how sick he was on the day of his brother's death. Once again, Beverly's father provides the most chilling manifestation of this power. Still grieving the death of his wife, he constantly makes inappropriate advances and is seemingly days away from escalating to physical abuse. The blood Pennywise sends to her through the drain in her bathroom is a representation of her upcoming menstruation, signaling a dangerous phase of maturity while her father is around. Pennywise occasionally appears to Beverly disguised as her father, most notably in the climactic sewer battles that conclude both films. But in a dramatic twist, it's Beverly's fearlessness that allows her to strike the decisive blow, giving the losers the confidence they need to force it back into his lair for the next 27 years. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SlashFilm videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.